still reels with the issue of sanitary napkins affordability, female hygiene products have taken a backseat in the government's goods and services tax rates. Keeping items such as sindoor, kumkum and glass bangles tax-free, the government has decided to tax sanitary napkins at 12%. This has not gone down well with several people, including the chief of Delhi Commission of Women.
I think it is not justified, and that is why we've written a letter to the Finance Minister and the Chairman of the GST Council, Shri Arun Jaitley ji, and we are confident that he will review his decision, and this tax needs to be, this decision needs to be taken back. It should be rolled back, and there should be no tax on sanitary napkins.
The DCW chief may be the latest entrant to write to FM Jaitley demanding a rollback of this tax, but a large number of women find the government's intent to tax these essential commodities extremely regressive.
To me, I started laughing when I saw this because I'm not surprised. I'm a little bit horrified, but I'm also not surprised that they went this far, because to me, tax-free sindoor is how Indians think about women. It's just very representative of how we think. It's basically, if you're a married woman, all of the advantages. Unmarried woman, no advantages.
In fact, NGO SheSays, which has started an online campaign called #LahuKalagan, urging the government to make sanitary napkins tax-free, is now exploring legal options to tackle this issue.
Our efforts are not going to stop here, and I really hope that the momentum goes on, and everybody who is really petitioning the government, especially our efforts, our team under the Lauka Lagan campaign, we will continue it, and as planned and as discussed, the next step would be to move the doors of the court.
While the stigma around menstruation still exists in India, here's a question that a large number of women seem to be asking. Why are female hygiene products not a priority for the government? Why are essential commodities taxed while keeping items like sindoor, kumkum and bangles completely tax-free? Amita Balachandra for Mirror Now.
Well, it's a very simple question. Under the goods and services tax, sanitary napkins will be taxed at 12%. That will make them more expensive than what they are right now. On the other hand, items like sindoor and kumkum and bangles, which, let's accept, women like, most of them use, not all of them, and it's not compulsory, these items have been kept completely tax-free. Our question is very simple. Why not sanitary napkins? Let's accept that all women have to use sanitary napkins without a choice, and the ones who don't right now would be better off doing so. So the question we're asking this evening of the government is very simple. Sanitary napkins are absolutely necessary. They're a hygiene product. And if you have, in your wisdom, decided that contraceptives and condoms should be tax-free, please also include sanitary napkins. I open up the panel right now and our phone lines for our viewers who are watching. But in the studio with me, Arti Mehra, National Executive Member of the BJP, Sushmita Dev, Member of Parliament and from the Congress Party, who started a campaign and submitted it to the government to make sanitary napkins tax-free, Trisha Shetty, the founder of SheSays, the NGO that has also started the online campaign, #LahuKalagan, KV Sridhar, or POPs, he's a brand expert, Dr. Duru Shah is a very senior gynecologist, Naveen Chomal is an advocate, and Caralisa Monteiro is a Bollywood Playback Singer. This campaign has also received a lot of support from Bollywood. I want to start with Trisha. Trisha, a very, very interesting campaign that you're running right now online. What are you demanding from the government?
You know, we started this in 2016 under Don't Tax My period. We wanted to raise awareness on the fact that women are being taxed on sanitary napkins. Sadly, women didn't even know that they were being taxed on essential commodities such as sanitary napkins. At that point, we raised awareness. Following that, the next step for us, before Ms. Dev started her campaign, was we went ahead and filed legal representations with 15 concerned government authorities from the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Ministry of Women and Child, Ministry of Finance. This is before the GST bill was passed. Simply, and our representation covered a lot of information. Covered information on how, you know, there needs to be more transparency on the rural, national rural health hygiene schemes that are currently in place, on how only 12% of women are using sanitary napkins. What are the rest of them using? Well, not just cloth, they're using husk, sand, ash, dried leaves, plastic. India has a high rate of cervical cancer. There have been studies that show a direct link of poor menstrual hygiene to cervical cancer. Menstrual hygiene, lack of menstrual hygiene is the second leading cause for young girls to be dropping out of schools. Based on our studies and the amount of research that our team did, because like I said, we've been doing this since 2016, we also noticed that many villages don't even have any sort of menstrual hygiene products being sold. And what all of this does is systematic discrimination. It cuts access to education, it cuts a woman's access to, go out, contribute to the economy, live a life of dignity and equality. And our demands are very simple. Drop the tax, make sure it's affordable, and also make sure it's accessible. So make sure there's transparency when it comes to the schemes. And we had a whole list of demands that I'll run through as the debate goes ahead. And then we started a campaign again to galvanize momentum, because we didn't get a response on our representation, called Lau Ka Lagan, which was, really getting everyone on board. And that's when it became a people's movement, and it became mainstream, and people started talking about it. Because it's just not okay. How are you taxing women on natural bodily product, over a natural body? Yes. That they can't control. So we were hopeful with the response that we got. There was an article that came out that said Honorable Minister Sushma Swaraj is going to be leading a committee that's going to look at tax-free sanitary napkins. We were really hopeful with the entire public pressure. But this, right now, before GST was passed, in Maharashtra, women were taxed 5% first, then it went up to 5.5, then it went up to 6. Now, after the GST of 12%, this has been an overall increase on the price of sanitary napkins.
Right. So there is an increase. Sushmita Dev, Member of Parliament, who also ran a campaign on change.org and submitted the results to the Union Minister for Women and Child Welfare. Sushmita Dev, what is the argument that you have made to the government, and why is it that the government hasn't heard that argument?
Well, the arguments are quite clear, and like Ms. Shetty said, that basically poor menstrual hygiene has led to deaths, it's led to health issues, and as far as we are concerned, it impacts a woman's fundamental right, the right to life. And it is something that is directly under the jurisdiction of the government, the fiscal policy. Since GST was a landmark decision in restructuring the tax regime, I think everybody put their forces together to convince the government that to increase the affordability of sanitary napkins and commercially made sanitary napkins, it would be a huge incentive if it was exempted from tax, and if environmental friendly sanitary napkins were made tax-free, that would incentivize the industry to produce that, which is not the case now. But sadly enough, government has clearly not treated it as an essential commodity, whereas menstruation is an involuntary process that a woman has no control over. Right. And a government that talks about Beti Bachao and Beti Padhao could have easily given more momentum to that slogan by accepting the demand of various NGOs, activists, and many politicians across party lines also signed this petition. So it's deeply disappointing to see that clearly there has been no application of mind in the GST Council when it comes to women empowerment.
KV Sridhar, this is the interesting thing, and this went viral a little bit on the internet. The fact that people said sindoor, bangles, bindis, these are all signs of matrimonial bliss in India, all of which are tax-free, but somehow sanitary napkins are not. Is that a message that the government is sending us?
I think it's not a message they're sending now. It's been the message they've been sending for the last 65, 70 years. It's terrible. It's terrible. I've been working on the category for several brands. I know it was so sad that till early or till mid-90s, you're not even allowed to advertise sanitary napkins on television. So how are we supposed to really increase the consumption if we don't teach them?
And what are the rules right now about advertising sanitary napkins? What does the advertising industry have to adhere to?
Yeah, I think the rules are pretty liberal now. You know, you can use anything which you want except the red ink demo, which has been replaced by the blue ink. Apart from that, there is not very much. The point which I was trying to make is we have never ever considered a girl and then her right, a woman and their right in this country ever. I think, we keep saying that beti bachao. How can you bachao the beti if she does not have the fundamental right to hygiene? So that's the problem, that's the huge problem. I would even say that go a step further. There was a time in 80s, condoms were freely available. They were distributed freely to people. And then we are at a stage where 88% of women in our country do not have access to sanitary pads. We should even, distribute it free. What is the point of living in a liberal world if we can't even take care of basic needs and hygiene? So I would even say that, this stupidity of bringing from 14% to 12%, 12% to 10.5 is not going to change the world. I think you need to take a drastic measure and then go ahead and then actually subsidize them, make it available to everyone, so that we bring in little more hygiene and we will be able to.
In this country, it's very interesting. In this country, we distribute free condoms, which we should. It's a very, very forward-thinking, responsible thing to do, to distribute free condoms. There is no reason why we shouldn't also be distributing free sanitary napkins. You're very right, Dr. Duru Shah. There have been a lot of arguments in the Western world, at least, going back to using washable, cloth. That it's less, cotton is less toxic, it's better for the environment. But scientifically, there is no reason why sanitary napkins should be taxed, is there?
No, I don't think so, because today, if you look at the use of sanitary napkins, it's more in the urban girls who are probably living with more educated parents and who guide them on what they need to use and what is more hygienic. The problem in the rural areas mainly, or in the low socioeconomic group, is that they do not use sanitary napkins purely because it's too expensive to use and it does not, people cannot afford to buy it. So when you're going to tax it even further, it's going to be more and more difficult for the consumers to use it in the rural population. Besides that, in the rural population, there's so much of a cultural taboo to menstruation. Women don't talk freely about it. As a matter of fact, almost 50% of the girls, or 60%, do not even know that they're going to menstruate. And it's the first time they menstruate, they realize, and they're stressed and they're anxious, and then they come to know what it is about. Now, the question is, in the rural areas, when they're menstruating, there's no possibility of a decent private toilet available to them for them to change. They do not know where to dispose of the stuff. They do not know where to wash and where to dry. They end up washing the cloth and they put it under a bed or under a mattress somewhere to dry because they're too shy to hang it out to dry. So there are so many taboos and so many cultural issues that a cloth which is washed in a home in great privacy and dried under a mattress with no sunshine is bound to have more bacteria and more infection as compared to using disposable napkins. So I think we need to look at it definitely.
Arti Mehra, I'm grateful that you joined us on this panel today. Is this a message you believe that the government should consider, that the government should perhaps revise in its GST policy?
Yes, I definitely do feel very strongly, because this is an essential product, and moreover we have to it's only used by the urban area, and in India it's 12%, which the these studies says, the survey says. But I feel and I know that in many areas the indigenous sanitary napkins by the NGOs, by the government, it's been through the small scale industries and self-help group. They're also doing a lot of work, so it may add another few percent. But still there is a huge, maybe almost 80% of our girls, they out of which they don't even know what sanitary napkins are, and it's a matter of great concern as far as our health is concerned. And the issue of sanitation is concerned. Now GST is a very big law, it's a big change, and it's a GST council which comprises of, it's a joint of state as well as the central. And we have been discussing in our meetings, and I am going to further request through our ministry that in the next GST Council, they should reconsider it, since it's an essential item. And I personally feel, my views on this, that we should provide them through our schools,
Arti
our
Mehra,
government schools, through our yes.
how many women are part of the GST Council?
Well, I won't like to. I have no exact numbers. I don't know.
Are they women
But
part
I
of
know
the GST Council?
It's important. Well, I'm not aware of it.
It's the finance ministers who are members of the.
Right. So that's exactly my
No,
question.
finance
That's exactly how.
minister. It's a.
No, it's not just the finance.
It's basically
No,
there are
I just want to say
the
that
federal and
members.
the central. It's a jointly decision. Yes.
No.
And very recently, 4 to 5 days back.
No, can I just come in on this?
Last week only we had a meeting in Jammu and Kashmir, and they have tried to equalize the slab. Whatever the taxes were there before, they have tried to equalize it or to lessen it down. But at the same time, if certain items need correction can be done. One is not adamant on that.
All right, Sushmita Dev, how many women are part of the GST Council right now?
Yeah, I just want to say, see the GST Council constitutes the finance ministers of all the states, and it is chaired by Arun Jaitley ji as the finance minister of India. So the real question is, as far as my knowledge goes, there are no women finance ministers in this country. So probably there are no women on it. But the point is that I had taken my petition to Maneka Gandhi ji, who's the Minister for Women and Child Development, and she had written to Arun Jaitley ji. I also met the Health Minister, Mr. Nadda, and he also apparently batted for it. So the question is, what eventually happened in the council, nobody knows, but I get the feeling that it was not properly debated. It was not properly debated, and it's likely to come up again on the 3rd of June. Just one point I want to add, that under NRHM, they are giving subsidized sanitary towels to the rural areas. So, but I have done a little survey in my constituency, which tells me that last mile delivery is not very good under this scheme, and the sanitary napkins being supplied, subsidized under NRHM are made by public sector companies, and they're not necessarily of good quality. So the entire purpose is defeated. So to make commercially made sanitary napkins which are available in the market, like Stay Free, like Whisper, like Carefree, would actually take a quality product to the rural market. And affordability is by far one of the main reasons why women don't have access to quality sanitary napkins. So I hope that answers some of the questions.
Yes, thank you very much. Caralisa Monteiro. Caralisa Monteiro is a playback singer. Caralisa, here's the problem. We've discovered it right now on this panel. There are no women decision makers. There are no women who are considered to be good enough to be finance ministers in this country of any state. So there are no women decision makers in the GST Council deciding what we will pay for products of feminine hygiene. There isn't a female voice on that panel.
There was no consultation either.
There was, or if there was consultation, that consultation, there were representations made, but they weren't considered.
So we did get a formal acknowledgement from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare that our representation, because like I said, we filed representations before GST Council bill was passed, that our representation was formally forwarded to Shri Arun Goyal, who is the Additional Secretary of the GST Council, for perusal. Following which we ourselves sent representations, a copy of this, to Shri Arun Goyal, and this is well before the GST meeting was passed. What I do want to add is, just like Sushmita Dev, Ms. Sushmita Dev was inspired by our campaign and started something as well in order to galvanize people for this. I think we are still optimistic because we've got acknowledgement that says, they're forming a committee under Sushma Swaraj, but it's just, this is not making sense. It's not making sense as to why they would increase the tax slab and put slab at 12%. There could be no justifiable reason to do that. Our representation lists down all the reasons as to why the tax must go. And affordability is not one of the highest reasons. It is the highest reason why women are not using sanitary napkins.
Okay, Caralisa Monteiro, go ahead.
Yes. So hi, I really respect everyone on the panel, and what everyone is saying is amazing because there's all the statistics are all there. Everyone knows what's there. But let me say that as a woman, a sanitary pad is a fundamental right. It's a no-brainer. Everyone knows it, but the government doesn't seem to get it, and it's this very cycle that gives birth to morons like them. I mean, we know that sanitary pads should be actually given free to women in villages. I mean, we need to do more of that than start, causing more problems in taxing sanitary pads, which is a fundamental right. And with the taxation of sanitary pads, what the government is basically saying is that our fundamental right to menstruate is a burden on the exchequer, according to Mr. Arun Jaitley. I mean, it's an uncontrollable thing for women, menstrual cycle. It's a beautiful thing. But yet now we're making it further a taboo. And, rural India, women from rural India will not fight against it, and they know it. So now it's part of a taxation system. I mean, it's ridiculous. Come on, we should remove this tax completely.
I know, and I want to bring in Dr. Shah, but let's talk about the taboo. Let's actually, on primetime television, on a national platform, talk about the taboo. And Sridhar just pointed out about the fact that you're not allowed to show red ink on an advertisement for sanitary napkins. It has to be blue. Dr. Duru Shah, noted gynecologist, does anybody bleed blue?
Unless they're royal blood.
So, I mean, why are we still afraid of acknowledging that this happens once a month to every single woman? Why do we still pretend that this is something that we can't talk about? Why do we still pretend that when you go to a store to buy sanitary napkins, they will wrap it up in newspaper and put it in a black bag and hand it to you from the side like it's contraband, that you should be embarrassed of it? And we have young girls across the country right now who are thinking that this is horridly embarrassing and we should not, we should be embarrassed of it. We have advertisements on television that pretend that it's all blue and, everything is wonderful and women can skip and hop and jump and be fantastic for those 3 days. Why, Dr. Shah, are we still embarrassed of the monthly cycle?
I think there's a lot of, taboo on talking about menstruation in front of, men, in front of others. I mean, I remember when we went to medical school, in the initial phases, we were very uncomfortable talking, about reproductive system in front of the boys around us. But today, it's something which I see girls and boys, young girls and boys are very, very openly talking about it, especially in urban India or in Mumbai city. Now, the question is, the taboo comes from where? The taboo comes from old cultural beliefs. Besides talking about, there are some communities actually who celebrate puberty. When the girl attains her first period, it is celebrated. The whole community gets together to celebrate, talking that this girl now has become a mature girl and a woman who's capable of reproducing. So this happens, yes. But after that, talking about menstruation, talking about bleeding every month is something which somehow, I don't know, some communities I know they're not allowed to get into the kitchen. There are so many myths. The pickles will get spoiled. Don't touch this, don't touch that. Stay away. There's one of my patients who's a Jain. She tells me she's kept outside almost her house. The mother-in-law comes and puts the toothpaste on her toothbrush. She's not allowed to touch anything in her house. So, I mean, that kind of beliefs are still continuing today. The only thing I find positive about a menstruating woman taking rest and not touching anything, I think she gets that 3 days of absolute rest as a housewife she would never get otherwise ever again.
Pops, so why are we still afraid of menstruation? And this whole business of making decisions about women by panels of men, Where does this come from? Why are we still doing this in this country?
I think it's deep rooted culturally. I think today urban India is quite comfortable with. If you go to rural India, that Touch the Pickle was one campaign, which got the insight but spoke to wrong audience. But if you go to the rural areas, the girls are not even allowed to get into the main house. They are actually kept outside. Nobody is allowed to touch them. They are not allowed to touch anything. I mean, the kind of, they actually treat a woman for those 5 days as the most impure form of living being. From there it is coming. I don't know. It's part of religious, part of cultural, part of male domination. To keep them away. But I think somebody spoke about the government agencies giving some sanitary towels free of cost, but there are more than 350 million people who do not have an access. What is great we can do with the third largest economy in the country? We can't even protect and then give the basic hygiene and then shackle this little taboos which are there. It's very difficult. Even a lot of companies do not even understand how to deal with women at that point in time.
Right, let me take some voices that are coming in on our phone line. Narayan is on the phone line from Bangalore. Narayan, we appreciate the support of all of our male viewers in this particular campaign. Go ahead, we can hear you.
Good evening, everybody. What I want to tell all your panelists is ask for a lower level of tax. The reason is sanitary napkins have got many things to do with being sterile, quality, and being bumped up by any small scale, micro scale industry into this country. We have a huge problem of fakes, substandard, all sorts of funny things going on. You ask for a 5% tax or a 2% tax so that you can trace it to the last retailer in this country. Look at it that way. Don't
ask for zero tax. That's an excellent point. Don't ask for zero tax so that you can keep a check on quality. Trisha, I'll come to you with that. I just want to take one more call. Jaya is on the phone line from Mumbai. Jaya, go ahead.
Yes, thank you for your channel, for giving me a chance to speak on this. Most of the urban ladies, which for even above the poverty line, make use of these young girls and the ladies up to a particular age. As you know, it forms an essential part of the commodity and the provisions which are bought every day, every month for the ladies, and particularly from the hygiene point of view. And considering that now the PM is in a Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, movement, I think this is a must. The use and the pharma companies, which are all the reputed pharma companies which manufacture this. So for this, the GST has to be either waived off completely, or you treat it on par with all the other medical the products or the medicines which are taxed least, because it is an essential item, and absolutely no tax or the least tax has to be levied on this. And the government should immediately act upon the views of your channel and all the public. And there should also be a movement advertising for the use of all sanitary napkins, even in the rural areas. But I know that rural areas also, most of them do use some local ones. And there are very few who do not use it.
You know, that's a very interesting point you made. And I was looking at what tax we pay right now on sanitary napkins. This is very interesting. Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Maharashtra pay 5 to 6%. Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, 14%. States where this is needed more than anywhere else, 14% tax. Naveen Chomal is a senior advocate. Naveen Chomal, do you agree that sanitary napkins should be tax-free?
See, if the government reduces or they abolishes tax on the sanitary napkins, nobody has got any objection to it. But if the government has still continued the taxation on the sanitary napkins, then there is a proper study and thinking behind it. I have been hearing several panelists, and it seems some of them are having a leftist thoughts and particularly criticizing the government and other Hindu cultures.
We're going to ignore that.
There are certain wrong facts being stated on the discussions.
Okay.
So, firstly, let me put the record straight that as per the study, it is 12% of the menstruating women who are using the sanitary napkin, not 12% of the total women. I'll come to that statistics later on. Then they were talking that the
all women menstruate, all women, all Naveen Chomal, all women menstruate. Naveen Chomal
is also
Naveen Chomal, please allow me to enlighten you.
Yeah,
all women menstruate, all of them.
No.
And if they don't, then they need.
No. See, you are allowing some panelists to go on speak and speak properly what they want to say.
Okay.
And if I am speaking something, you are interrupting, then very well, I'll keep quiet.
Go ahead. Give us all of your statistics and then we'll rebut them when you're done. You said only menstruate.
Okay, please.
Okay.
No. You don't want a discussion, then very well. You want to have a one-side discussion, I'll be a very good
No, go ahead. Naveen Chomal, we're listening to you. Go ahead, we're listening to you.
So why interruption, madam, unnecessarily, madam? You are an anchor. Please conduct it properly, na, madam. So please appreciate. Let me get my rhythm back. As I was saying, that only 12% of the menstruating women that in urban areas are using it, and of course, sanitary napkin is a very handy thing, very good for essential for sanitation and hygiene. But it is not the fundamental right as some people are trying to say. And secondly, what the thing is, it cannot be disposed of for hundreds of years. That is posing a big environmental losses and burden on the government. So if they are continuing the taxes, which the earlier government was also doing, and earlier the VAT, it was at schedule 1D, serial number 132. So this government has not done anything new to impose new taxes on it. It is only continued it. So other items like sindoor, they are not harming the environment, so you can't compare both of them together. That is a different issue altogether. So today, if the government is taking certain steps in different manner, for example, there is a scheme called Sabala scheme, in which the government is distributing free of cost the sanitary napkins to the girls in the rural areas. So government is taking all the steps. But not to reduce the taxes.
I heard your points. Let's now rebut them. Trisha Shetty, only 12% of menstruating women use sanitary napkins.
I would hope, Mr. Naveen Chomal, you would appreciate that I've been doing this for the last 2 years. So I have my research as well. 12% of 355 million women who are menstruating, that's the number, 355 million women who are menstruating use sanitary napkins, that's 12%. The others resort to, like the alternatives that I just stated earlier, cloth, sand, husk, etc. 70% increase in the rate of RTI amongst the 355 million women who do not have access to sanitary napkins. 12 to 18-year-old high school girls miss 5 days of school a month, that is 50 days a year of school being missed. 23% of girls drop out of school upon reaching menstruation. There is a clear link made by doctors, decorated doctors, who have made a link to poor menstrual hygiene being a high rate of cervical cancer in India. All of this is statistics. The 12% that I'm referring to is an AC Nielsen, globally recognized, one of the most reputed organizations that make these statistics. So that is your first point. Second point, when you're talking about disposal of sanitary napkins, it's a very fair point. If you do know, the government has committed to having incinerators in public institutions such as schools, at government places, to ensure disposal of sanitary napkins, which has not happened. This is all under the National Rural Health Scheme. National Rural Health Scheme is not only under the current government's mandate, it's been going on even in the previous government's mandate. Our issue is not with the government. We still believe in the government being able to take the right call, because the government India is also part of the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, which is a universally declared document that requires India to make gender-sensitive budgeting. India is also signatory for the Sustainable Development Goals, which calls for sustainable development. You are absolutely right. Right to sanitary napkins is not a fundamental right. But what is a fundamental right? Right to health. Right to dignity. Right to education.
Right to equality.
Right to equality.
And right to life.
Discrimination on grounds of
fair
sex,
access
gender.
to health and hygiene.
So when you're talking about all of this, you cannot look at sanitary napkins, access to sanitary napkins from just a pure perspective of, oh, a woman bleeds, she needs sanitary napkins. Lack of them is causing so many hindrances at every level. Our attack is not against the government, because we need to work with the government, because the issue is much bigger than the government. It's about women. It's about 355 million women in India being able to live a life of dignity.
You know, I want to bring in Sushmita Dev. Sushmita Dev, this question that came in on the phone saying that don't ask for zero tax, ask for at least 5% tax. Thereby you can trace quality. Sushmita, do you believe that there is a need to maintain some level of tax in order to trace quality?
I think there's some confusion in the minds of the people who are saying 5% tax. This is an indirect tax, okay? So indirect tax is always borne by the consumer, because that's what the manufacturer does. They transfer the tax on the consumer. So it actually has no impact on the manufacturer, and therefore the quality argument does not stand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Secondly, please understand, it is not a question whether it's a fundamental right or no. When we talk about women empowerment, what is empowerment? Empowerment is about equal opportunities. What amounts to equal opportunities? That's a woman's right to, a girl's right to access to education, a girl's right to lead a hygienic life, and the fundamental right involved here, according to me, is the right to life. Because there's enough data, Trisha will be able to tell you, which shows that poor menstrual hygiene leads to deaths. There's been a story in Assam where a girl basically was using cloth and got bacterial infection, had maggots in her stomach. Her parents thought she was pregnant, took her to the hospital at a very late stage, and she died. So that's the reality, and no one is blaming the government. The only reason now NGOs, activists and others have jumped in is because GST is restructuring the entire tax regime in the country. And so therefore, instead of going to every state to lobby for this, it was an opportunity for NGOs, activists and whoever believed in this to work, to lobby with the government and to convince the government, so that it's a one-stop shop. So given that only 12% of women use it, the loss to the exchequer wouldn't have been a huge dent, I think, and the government could have easily done it.
Very fair point. And then to rebut
to one issue when it comes to menstrual hygiene, awareness.
Right. To rebut what Naveen Chomal said,
has to be increased by the government.
To rebut what Naveen Chomal said about the fact that sindoor is biodegradable and hence does not cause any problem. What about bangles? Bangles are normally either plastic or glass. So I don't think that particular argument stands. Right.
If I could just quickly come in, I know a lot of people have been saying, you know, it's cost the environment, don't make sanitary napkins tax-free. That's been an alternate argument. To that, all I have to say is please take a step back and be pragmatic about this. You have two big players right now, Unilever and P&G. With all of the money that they have in marketing, distribution, being able to get shelf place and infiltrate the market, and I'm sure Mr. Sridhar could reaffirm this, they have still managed to reach out to only 12%. You're talking about alternatives. How accessible are the alternatives? Are you expecting people to go online and get access to cloth pads? We're not saying alternatives don't need to be explored. Of course they need to be explored, but don't say sanitary napkins don't need to be available because they cost the environment. Look at alternatives as well as concentrate on sanitary napkins, taking a pragmatic approach at this.
I have this question for Sridhar, and I'm just going to, for the time being, just play devil's advocate for a minute. Just bear with me. Sridhar, given the fact, and Trisha pointed it out, two very large companies supply, manufacture and make these products. Tomorrow, let's assume the government did hear our plea and make the tax zero, that 12% being removed from it. What guarantee do we have that these companies will in fact pass on that change to the customer? What guarantee do we have that that change will result in...
Exactly, that is one of my point.
Okay.
Yes, that is one of my point.
Okay. What guarantee do we have that the change will result in these companies actually going to the last little village and making sure that the product is available?
See, if you see whether it is Johnson & Johnson or whether it is Procter,
yes,
they've been doing tremendous work in actually propagating female hygiene, not selling their products. I think to any manufacturer, to anyone, if girls survive, they can sell more. If the girls don't survive, that's end of it. Correct? It is in their own interest to really expand the market.
So why haven't they
Carefree
done
was
so
the first
far?
brand,
Right. And
then they expanded the market. They are the ones who converted cloth to sanitary napkins way back in 80s. I think it is the interest of the manufacturers. If they don't do it, somebody else will do it. We are living in a competitive world. Correct? Yeah, I'm not lobbying or saying that only one guy or two guys.
In their general interest to do so. Dr. Shah?
And then taxation has nothing to do with the quality. Quality assurance. There are certain measures, and everybody knows that government puts on stringent industry norms to control the quality. I think cheaper, better access, and then more distribution, more education. That is where television plays a huge role, and we are denying that opportunity of educating people through this mass medium. I think that is the biggest change and then we are talking all this because the GST has not put in any effort to understand, to do the larger picture of what government is trying to do with Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. Both Beti Bachao or Padhao both have to do with the hygiene of the girl. If she does not have the hygiene, you can't save her, and then you can't put her to educate.
Just give me 1 second. Ravi Nair is on the phone line. I think he's making the same point. Ravi Nair, very quickly, go ahead.
Yeah, let me tell you, I want to rebut Mr. Chomal. I find it funny when he is reasoning out with his fanciful ideas. He is trying to tell us that this can be taxed, and if he is going to tax it, already we have a problem with the rural areas not using these things. He is forcing the people in the cities also not to use it by increasing the tax. Let me tell you that I am a person who voted for a liberal party like BJP, and I am surrounded by 2 women at home who spend more than me, and I am happy about it. Now, what I need to understand is, where's the government's glorified Beti Bachao?
Right.
Means tax. But are you not concerned about these Betis who are the voters? They need to, on a voting day, if these girls are going to be under menstruation period, they will not be able to vote. They need to use sanitary napkins and come and vote for this party.
That's a fair point. Jitendra is on the phone line from New Delhi. Jitendra, go ahead.
No. See.
One second. Naveen, let me hear both the callers, and then I'll come to you. Jitendra, go ahead. 1 second.
I would like to thank this channel and my sister who has raised this issue, and I would request the person from government, the panelist from government, to waive off this tax immediately. It should come to 0% tax. And one thing I would like to tell the gentleman who was saying that this sanitary napkin harm our environment. So I think this is not the solution. You impose tax on that. We should have some kind of research on that, or you should ask or issue a guideline to the companies that you make such sanitary napkin which harm less to our environment. And the thing is that even carbon dioxide harm our environment. And tomorrow you can you cannot impose tax on breathing. You can say you inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide.
That's an excellent point, because to women it's as natural as inhaling and exhaling. It is not a voluntary action. Heaven knows some of us would choose otherwise if we could. Dr. Shah, you had a point to make.
Yeah, I wanted to say that education is something which I think was the mandate of the government to educate, or to do it through education. So as a matter of fact, we took it upon ourselves as gynecologists, where in the year 2000 to 2010, we took it upon ourselves, about 1,000 of us all over the country, educated young girls from the 5th standard to the 7th standard on menstruation. 8th to the 10th, we talked to them about reproductive and sexual health. Then we talked about contraception, etc., etc. Johnson & Johnson actually helped us in a major way in that 10 years to facilitate all this education.
Yes.
We covered more than 8 to 10 million girls all over the country, and we did a brilliant job for 10 years. After that, I think, the awareness got better and better, and things were, I'm not saying we educated all, but we could educate as many as we could. But even today, as a matter of fact, if we are talking only about menstruation, but look at reproductive and sexual health. We have actually created an app now, which is going to be soon launched, which is going to talk to people in their own private spaces about what really is reproduction and sexual health. It's difficult to educate otherwise. And This is something which we are looking forward to and releasing it very soon.
I wish you very good luck. And I want to bring in Clarissa. Clarissa, we remember what it was like to have moved to the big city and, to survive on your own. Who are the people who will be impacted if the prices are moved up because the tax is moved up? The students, people who are just starting off in their careers, the urban poor, the semi-urban women who are just moving now, who are just experimenting now between cloth and sanitary napkins, all of those people who tend to be price conscious, who are struggling, for whom that extra 5 rupees, that extra 10 rupees is going to make a difference, is going to make a difference because they have to spend it every month. This is where the sensitivity comes in. This is where it's important to involve women in decisions about women. Clarissa. We seem to have lost that connection. I'm going to take the same question to Arti Mehra. Arti Mehra, how important is it, and you represent the government, how important is it to involve women in decisions that decide things about women?
Definitely. Women, for the budget, for the healthcare, for the education, for all the rights, you know, women decision are very important, and things are changing. We have to be very optimistic, and you see, the time is changing, and but you see, it's very important. Now, what we are discussing today is definitely going to have more impact. At the same time, what I intend saying is our GST Council, the reconsideration can be done over this issue, because I personally feel it's essential, and for our hygiene it's very, very important. But at the same time, the government, what you were talking about, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, that government is very sincere, sensitive, concerned, and working hard on it, right? And this aspect also can be taken care. And then, as you said that you've met Menka Gandhiji over this issue, and I'm along with my other national executive members and the office bearers, we can raise our voice. We have already raised our voice. And then there is, you see, self-help groups like Lijjat Papad, like Amul Doodh. There can be a, you see,
so Arti Mehra, I understand you're raising your voice, and this is a sincere, sensitive, concerned government. Where is the women's reservation bill? Absolutely. If we're talking about women deciding about women, where is the women's reservation bill that would have guaranteed us representation, that would have guaranteed us representation perhaps in the GST Council if the bill was in place? Where is the bill? Why are we afraid of women in Parliament, Arti Mehra?
We are not afraid, and our Prime Minister is very concerned about the women empowerment and women concern, and women will also, you know, so far whatever has been done, a lot has been done by the BJP only. Today is it's not the we are not debating on the women bill.
I think that's one of our problems.
On GST. GST is a revolutionary stand, revolutionary law which has been introduced, and now there is not 18 places the hidden taxes are there.
No, Arti Mehra, don't explain GST to me. I understand GST. My question to you is, while the GST,
you understand,
while the GST, Arti Mehra, while the GST is this massive, beautiful, fantastic law that we are making that will change the way we live our lives in this country, we don't have female representation among the decision makers of the GST, and the GST will decide life for women. 50% of this country are women. There's no representation on the GST Council. There's no women's reservation bill. And unfortunately, this is where the women's reservation bill stands in priority. It stands in, we're not debating it right now. It's not something that's on the agenda right now. When will it be on the agenda? When will women be on the agenda?
Women are very much on agenda. And a lot of things and a lot of steps have been taken for women empowerment, and more need to be. You see, it's an evolving society. We are a developing nation. You see the change every day.
No, I don't.
So we are changing towards good. So this is what very important. So I think the government is a government which is very interactive. A government which people have a lot of faith in. So government is talking about inclusive and holistic growth. So we will definitely take all the steps one by one, not necessarily at one go one can change things. It takes time in the evolving society. One is doing that.
I just want to go back to one statement somebody made that there are no women finance ministers, but it is so sad in a country where the largest financial institutions were headed by women. Yes. And then we say that we don't have women who's of the caliber to run finance departments of the states. It's so sad that, how can we live in this dichotomy that in the government we don't allow women to take any higher position.
No, that is a different issue altogether.
Female finance minister.
That has got nothing to do about the issue what we are discussing today, about whether the sanitary napkins should be taxed or not.
This is exactly what we are discussing. Yeah. This is exactly what we are discussing.
The sensitivity
this is
towards,
something that is so personal. That is so important. That is such an important part of our lives, and the decisions are being made by men.
So we don't require a woman finance minister for this issue, no? Even a man finance minister can also deliberate upon it and can take a decision for the in favor of women.
I think that in that sense,
nothing about us without us.
India has never had a female finance minister. I want everybody to just turn their thought around in your head and realize where we're coming from at this point. And Arti Mehra has very kindly used various words to describe this government in the last 1 hour. She said sensitive, this government is concerned, this government is sincere, this government is interactive, this government is inclusive, this government is holistic. These are the words she has used. I would like this government to introduce and to push forward the Women's Reservation Bill. Arti Mehra, when will that happen?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. The women, you see, all these good bills will be cleared. I'm very hopeful under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, this bill also would be cleared. There are many other parties. We are gaining our strength from state to state. We are winning more states. So once we have a power, and then we'll be able to, we'll do it, because this is important. Whatever has been done for the women reservation bill, most of it has been done in our government during Atalji, and the whole matter was mainly picked up by Sushma Swaraj. So we will do it. I'm confident.
Yeah. So okay. I want to squeeze in a couple of voices on the phone. Dinesh is on the phone line from Bangalore. Dinesh, very quickly, I'm running out of time. Go ahead. What would you like to say?
Very good evening to all of you. This debate is not going to end unless we act and do something. Yeah, looks like the government is really not very sensitive towards the women. What I suggest is, let us give the government back in its own coin. Let's put a bindi or 2 bangles on a sanitary napkin pack, sell it at the cost of free bindi or free bangle, and make the napkin free. I think
sanitary napkins free with every bangle. I like that idea. Naresh is on the phone line from Hyderabad. Naresh, go ahead.
Hi, ma'am. This is Naresh from Hyderabad. And I have a very clear view at the debate that's going on. We have to attack the issue. Looking at what is the primary reason? Is it the reach, or are we just addressing that 12% who still have access to the pads, affordability? What is the main issue? I think to take care of the rest of the 88% who don't have access, it's the reach. So to get that, I think that we have to make use of the primary healthcare centers, which are there in every district, small towns also.
But that's an excellent point, and Dr. Shah, I'm sure you want to answer it, but I think that also the taxation sort of shows us that this is low priority, and low priority would mean that the government, who should be thinking about distributing it at primary healthcare centers, is not doing so right now. Dr. Shah?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the studies or statistics of what happens in primary health centers, most of them are completely unattended. So where are you going to distribute it from?
All right, last word, Trisha Shetty.
Again, I want to reiterate that 80% is because of affordability. That is the highest reason. Having said that, there also needs to be accessibility. I still believe in the government. We have signed the Addis Ababa Action Agenda. We have adopted the Sustainable Development Goals. We have constantly made commitments for Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. And well, let's deliver right now. Let's deliver, because we don't have time to wait for people to consider, for people to ponder, because every minute women are menstruating and are being discriminated against at all levels because of that. We need to make sure that we treat women with dignity, with respect, with equality, and let them live lives, go out and explore their full potential. So from our organization's end, we've been doing this since 2016. We are not going to stop. We are going to move to court. Because at this point we've exhausted all other resources, so we have to move to court. And we trust in the judicial body and our government to take the right decision.
Right, Arti Mehra, when I wrap up this debate, Arti Mehra said that bindis and bangles are religious symbols and we should not confuse it with what we're talking about. I want to point out to her.
Religious and cultural.
Okay, I want to point out to Arti Mehra, bindis and bangles are accessories that women use as an option when they get dressed. I've used them several times in the past. It has nothing to do with anybody's religion. The thing that we're pointing out really is that these things are optional. You can choose to use them, you can choose not to use them. People don't die of infections if they don't wear bangles and bindis. It's a choice. Sanitary napkins shouldn't be a choice. You shouldn't make a woman choose between using something that's hygienic and that would save her life and then having to use something perhaps that is cheaper. That's what we are making a lot of women in our country. 88% of the women in our country are having to choose the cheaper option. And there's no point, there's no logic, there's no thought in making it 12% more expensive than it already is. Our appeal right now to our sensitive, concerned, sincere, interactive, inclusive, holistic and hopeful government is to include women in decisions about women. That's all we're asking. Women understand these things. So if you're deciding how much we're going to pay for sanitary napkins, for contraceptives and for other things that women have to use, please, for heaven's sake, ask a woman. Do not make a panel of men who will decide how we should live our lives. All of this also rolled into the Women's Reservation Bill that I will constantly keep bringing up because we can't afford to forget about it. Remember, we started this show with 3 headlines about 3 gang rapes that have happened in our country, 2 of which happened to minors around the age of 10. We have to be more aware of regulation and policy and law and order because all of these things affect the way we live our lives. And women and girls are 50% of this country. We deserve more of a say when you make decisions about us. That's all we're asking. We're going to stay on this campaign and we're going to help it and push it and give it the platform it deserves until the government realizes that this is something that should be taken seriously. Thanks for watching.